Hi, I just want to make a quick video on a little peek inside the Eppendorf 5424 microcentrifuge. So I bought this one. It was dropped and the lid was messed up, so I ended up taking it apart and just kind of sloppily epoxying the case back together with some epoxy and clamps. But I did want to show what you have to do to take it apart, and just a little bit inside the centrifuge. So pretty much it's just these, there's I think like 2 or 3 screws around the edge, and you just take those out and the cover lifts off, and flip this over to the right. What you have is you have 4 main wires. You got this ground wire, you have this ribbon here, be careful not to damage that. This is handles the motor control, drive, that stuff. You can see here on the main board we got a power supply, circuitry. These are the windings that go to the motor. There's a H bridge, FETs here, and here's the main spindle and motor. And then up here there's these 2 wires. One's the Hall effects sensor for your lid sensor, and that's how the lid works. There's a magnet in the lid, and it uses this Hall effect sensor to know when the lid's closed. And then over here I think this is the wire for the motor control, for opening and closing the motor. For some reason there's 4 wires, so yeah. And this last wire here is a fan for the top lid. I guess it's to try to keep the lid the same temperature so there's no condensation. So in the lid, here's the lid, there is there's that fan wire, and there's the magnet. So I'm gonna put this thing back together and see if it runs. Again, when I bought it, the whole problem is the lid was jammed closed because it was dropped and cracked. So this is a pretty beefy fan here to keep everything cool. So this thing weighs like 30 pounds. It's a pretty robust centrifuge. So yep, and if you ever take one apart, swing it open to the right like this. That's what's inside, if anyone's curious. Okay, so to put the lid back on, just all it is took that rod, slid it through the spring, put that into the spring in the hole in the base assembly, and then you just, after you put your clamps in, push the spring over this latch, and you're good to go. And there we go. It springs up, and if we close it, it locks. We press open, it pops open just like it's supposed to. So now put our plastic cover on, hook this back up, and we're good to go. And then as far as hardware goes, here's that lid, and then up top here's the plastic lid. It's just held on self-tapping screws, and then here's those 4 machine screws that hold the top assembly on. And those last 2 screws you have to take out are here and here, and then here and here to get the whole top assembly off. And there's nothing else holding on from the bottom. It's just those 4 machine screws. And then you also have a spring that spring loads the lid. It's this spring here. And then you can either pop out the wires, or I just cut this off, and there's enough length on the wires I can just either solder it back or pop these out and strip them and put it in. Honestly, that fan's not that important, but it might not run without that fan connected. So yeah, I'm gonna throw it back together here and we'll see if it works. Okay, so just some quick testing. I just have the lid on here. Actually, there's no fault if that fan's unplugged. So we'll trigger that Hall sensor, and we should see the lid close. So it does close. And then we'll go ahead and run it up to see if it runs up the full RPM. So we'll switch over here to RPM, and we'll put it on 15,000 RPM. something I did notice is there is current sensing, I think, on the lid. It's not happy if it doesn't see the lid pop up. Because when it unlocks, that spring should pop the lid up. If you open it and pop the lid immediately up, no fault. So maybe there isn't current monitoring. There's probably not, but what that is if it doesn't see the lid pop up after like 2 seconds, it'll pop up with that lid error message. So yeah, there we go. It runs. So now we'll put the lid back together and throw the rotor in it and see if we can centrifuge some stuff.